And so we made it really easy. With the tap of a button, you can go in, whether it's a care conversation that's happening, as you had said, in a medical setting. Possibly it could be a care conversation happening at home. Maybe it's even a care conversation that's just observations, over time, how is someone progressing and changing? But you easily tap this button, you'll get the reminder to say, hey, does everyone okay with me taking notes with Innerhive? You start the recording and it kind of runs in the background. So it was important for us for technology to be there to allow people to be present. We wanted to capture everything so no word was missed, but really the emotional presence of being there to support your loved one, being able to ask the questions, to be able to understand, that was important to us. So what you'll see here, for example, is in one of our recent visits, my dad ended up having some chest pain. They weren't sure what was going on, had given us a call. We went to the doctors together. We were able to, do this recording, and what came out of it was a real-time summary. So it talks about, what generally was the discussion, who was present, what are some of the actions that we can take. So a lot of times in these conversations, you'll have, some shift to medication, there'll be some shift to at home or care management. A lot of times there's, a conversation or an upcoming discussion that they want to schedule. And so we just made it really easy to understand, what do I need to do today? What are some of the things that maybe I need to schedule in the future? And then what are ongoing care things that are really important to think about? Oftentimes this is daily or weekly shifts. These are really important. We'll get to that later about, why do we want to track these things? What sort of information and insight can they give us with patterns over time? So just really great way of capturing information. As you can see, when it's done, it goes in here. You get a notification. If you want to view all your notes, you've got this general note collection. So you can kind of scroll through and see all the notes at a glance. This indication is, a lot of the notes have the ability, if you want to add your own information. So sometimes people like to do some sort of observation or thoughts after. Some people really like to, once they share it with other people, maybe they want to have a conversation with their family and then they want to add in and say, I talked to the family on this day, here's what we all agreed to. But we make it really easy. So you can share this with your community. So when you hit this, it goes into this community space. And this is a space that families get to design theirself. So they can determine, who do we want to have in this space? A lot of times it tends to be their closest inner circle. So family, friends. Some people like to invite neighbors, people in their movement group, their spiritual group. You can invite people and you can have the option if you want them to just be a viewer. And they can go in and they can support you along the way. So they have the ability to interact, keep current. This is a really great place to just post updates so everyone's on the same page. Or if you want help managing care, we've made it easy so that you can be a care owner. And so this is when you have multiple co-owners, these are other people that you trust. So they have full permission to be able to add, edit, make any sort of adjustment. But it's a really great space because we've gotten a lot of feedback from families. And they've said, if you can make it really easy with one tap, we want to be able to capture the information. Innerhive is going to be your second brain. And then the next step is we want to be able to share that. We want to share it so there's ease of coordination. We want to be able to share it with family so everyone's connected. And so that's what we've done here.
That's very impressive, Crystal, because I think for most caregivers, their first line of note taking is potentially a pen and a paper pad. Or
Yes.
in most cases, there's nothing. And then maybe somebody may try to do an audio recording. So I want to kind of hammer home this point is, you download the app to your smartphone, you go into the doctor's office with your loved one, you push record, and then you stay present with your loved one and that doctor. I think that's important.
Yeah. It's so hard when you're caring, right? There's so many different cases and levels of support and care that one can extend. And I think these days, more often than not, people are everyone's got their own journey, their own life. And when you're caring across from a distance, to be able to stay connected and to understand and nothing gets lost in translation, you don't have to worry about, can I read my notes? Or shoot, I don't know what that was I wrote. Or the telephone game. A lot of times with my family, I have a number of siblings that are younger than me. And so, someone will get a call and it's like, oh, mom had this accident. Here's what's going on. Well, by the time it gets to the third person, that accident has morphed, right? It's taken a different color. So now you're like, wait a minute, what got lost in translation? Can I just understand what was actually, discussed and what the next steps are and help me understand where the focus is? So really powerful there. I think in many, many scenarios, we've had some families even use this. It's a really beautiful way to capture, outside of appointments. people that may be in a situation of maybe cognitive decline, or they're just so overwhelmed. It's very easy when you get stressed to not always remember what was that conversation, what was going on. And in those cases, some people will use this and they just capture, here are my wishes, here's what I want. This is what's meaningful for me. And so you've got that discussion. So 2 months, 6 months from now, you're able to revisit. And so you don't have to carry the weight of making that decision. You can reference back, and in many cases it's really soothing to families to be able to hear their own voice and go, okay, we did have that conversation, those were my wishes, okay, let's figure out how we can honor them.
And to point out for our listeners here, it's more than just the actual. So if it's a 20-minute appointment, it's more than just a 20-minute audio recording that they have to listen to. Innerhive is actually taking that, transcribing it, working on the background to actually do summaries, which is saving a lot of time of you having to manually do that yourself.
100%. And it's really great because you can interact. And so as you put these things on here, we've had a lot of families say, when we're sharing care, it's really good to know what is outstanding and needs to be done that I can step in and help with, versus what's already done. And so as you move through these, it's dynamic, it's meant to shift with you, but you can then capture, okay, what's done, what's still outstanding. So being able to put those into action and kind of task-oriented items, we've gotten really good feedback from families that that's valuable, because a lot of times people are like, I just need to focus on today and tomorrow, and I can't think beyond there. So help me just understand, what are the critical things that need my attention. So typically from there, after a conversation, an appointment, usually what happens is people go home, and the first degree of order is, okay, let's think about who's in your support network. What does that look like in terms of who, where, all the people, places, things. So as we start to visualize that, one of the first questions that comes up is, okay, well, in the case of an emergency, or in the case of maybe getting family aligned or new support members, what are the critical medical information that we need to understand? And so we did this profile page. So a lot of families come in here and the first thing they fill out is, okay, let's understand the diagnoses, the allergens, the medications. This is often really important just because as they're getting support, if something were to happen, you hear a lot of people say, make sure it's available in your home, or make sure other people understand, so that people are informed in terms of what they can and cannot have, or what sort of interactions might be happening if there is a shift and they need to come on a new medication, or if there's an ambulatory situation and someone new is coming to the house. So we've made it really easy just to collect all the critical medical information here. And then families have this just at a quick glance, to be able to support them.